And we are ready to begin, and we're so pleased you're here. It took a while to get our messenger to begin because we had to get him to move through his usual resistance, as most of you have that. But now that we have done that, we want to tell you why you're here. We have given you everything that you needed to live a wonderful life and create the magnificent world that you wanted to see. But the only difficulty was you didn't believe us. Well, our messenger didn't believe us either, and so we thought today that we would prove it to you because the last several days in your world has been a little challenging for many of you, and we wanted you to understand why. Everything exists in your consciousness and energy when you come into the physical world, and you each have a role to play, and it's within you, and it gets activated at certain times, and this is an activation that is occurring today, which is why we told him that he had to do this today, and we even had him stop last night to put together some information so that you would understand that nothing in your world or your life is occurring accidentally. It just takes you a while to understand. We're going to go back to the beginning so all of you understand at this time, so he can stop hiding from who he is, as we don't want any of you to do, because that's what happens. You each come to the world with something wonderful within you, but then you hide from it because it's in the unknown. And it's the same thing in your world. When your world shifts, it goes into an unknown place, and many of you move into fear. And we've given you everything to move beyond that, and now we'll tell you why. In 1989, when we first came through to our messenger, it frightened him, and it held him back. But it frightened him for a good reason, and you'll understand it today. Because what happened was he unleashed this power, and he knew it was there, but he didn't want to use it in an egoic way that would be to the detriment of others. And any of you who would know him would know that would be ridiculous, but he couldn't believe that. He couldn't accept it, as each of you could not accept something about yourself that is within you that is meant to come forth now. And if you were to do that, you would heal, and you would have this wonderful life. You would become abundant, and so would your world. And what we did was we had him sit for almost 20 years and write these messages, because we were giving you a new philosophy. It was a blueprint for your new world. That's what we called it. We called it your life operating instructions, because your world was a little off balance, as we said, and it wasn't moving in the correct way. And so if more of you could understand who you were, then things would shift. And so we wanted to prove to you how it could happen. So we took a being who moved through every physical difficulty that any of you could have experienced, and he healed them through the words that we have given him. And that's what he was writing. That's what he was putting together for his entire life, and he's 74. And we said that we have given you an encyclopedia of human development, self-actualization, and ascension, because that's what you all do. You come to a higher understanding of who you are individually and collectively, but you do it incrementally. But we did something a little different. We gave you a roadmap because we had him write it all down. Now, the thing that he did not know, which you do not know when you come into the physical world, what particular skills you might develop that have never been seen before, and that's why it was challenging for him. It was not accidental that we had him use a date, February the 19th, because that was Copernicus' birthday, because many of you didn't understand what he was giving you. But then you see later that he gave you an entirely new way of looking at your world. And we have given you an entirely new way of looking at your humankind. That's what it was. And we called it your life operating instructions, because it's within each of you. There is no one is more important than another, and this is what we wanted you to understand. And so then he wouldn't move for the longest time. So in 2005, we awakened him to a dream. And he looked at it and he said, "No, I'm not going to do it." Many of you have done that. He didn't want to be a chosen one. He didn't want to come in and do this. And he said no. And he put the dream, he wrote it down though, and he put it in a closet and hid it away. And then someone came and found it. That's what happens for many of you. You see, others have to find you to awaken you to who you are. That's not terrible. It's just what happens. That's how all humans operate. You don't know what you have, and you are meant to help one another, and you awaken one another at different times and in different ways. He chose this way, well, not willingly, we will say, because we had to keep pushing him. That's what's happened. Because we want you all to understand the resistance that you have and understanding the brilliance that's within you and what you could manifest. And so we had to lay it all out for him. So then we did something else, and we've done it all this week because we wanted to make it real for all of you. Now, many of you, we've told you this before, you said you didn't believe Jesus or Buddha or Tesla or all those who came before, because if you had, you could have used all that information now and your world would look quite different. However, you needed something of a little more modern take, and so we brought our messenger in to give it all to you. Well, he didn't believe it either. And so we had him in 2021. He sat on the edge of his bed and we said, you have to start channeling. We have too much to say. He didn't want to do that. You each resist something. But then he started to see what was happening. He started activating this memory, because you all have it. You all have a memory. You're eternal souls. You've always existed. You just come in at different times and do different things. That's all. But at certain times you pick up things that are lower vibrational energies that you carry with you, and we wanted you to let go of those so that you could manifest something different. So then in 2021, we told him we had given him everything in 2012. He said that's ridiculous, and he hid from that until he came into his home and found a folder with our messages in it that said 2012. There are energetic cycles that happen in your world, and many of you know of the 2012, and you think that that was when many of you believe that that's when your world was going to end. We said, no, that wasn't it, and we gave you a message on that solstice saying, wait, because you were building something new, and that was going to come through each of you. There's no one more important than another. This is what we wanted you to understand, and that's not what you're experiencing in your world now, which is why we've given you this information. And so, when we told him that we've given him this, he was just so freaked. He tried to prove us wrong. He started looking at our messengers and he tried to find a bad one, and he couldn't. Because it's all cosmic wisdom, you see. It's all cosmic wisdom that we have given him. And this is why when each of you read the messages, you think, wow, that makes sense to us. Because you each have that ancient memory. You each have that importance. It's within you. It just gets activated at different times, and it's also for your evolutionary path, which is different for each of you. And so then we told him that if he were to meet someone, that we had given him a message on your birthday in 2012. That seemed completely ridiculous to him. And we had to keep forcing him to try it. And then as he did it, he said, wow. We did that because when you heard the message, it gave you confirmation of who you were, of what you were doing in your life now. That's what we wanted you to have, this assurance that you were here to do something wonderful, because it's within each of you. And so still he had doubts about that, because that seemed so ridiculous. He didn't want to put himself out there, because you are afraid to be vulnerable, and he's this intuitive that's just so afraid to be out in public. That's what we call you, so introverted, you see. And that held back, but that was purposeful as well, because it wouldn't have made sense to any of you. He couldn't have been out there before until now. And we wanted to show you that today is the exact day. We had him sit down and do something. Then we told him when he started doing it, if many of you might have been there when we first began, we said that his mission in this lifetime was to marry science, spirituality, and human potential. And that's exactly what he's demonstrated because of all the things that he's been able to move through and accomplish. But it's only the information that we have given him, and then you each take that and do more with it. That's how evolution occurs. None of you are here to do the same thing, but you take the information that has come from those who have lived before, which is why we have said we have ingested our information with all those great minds, which is why we kept talking about Einstein and all of the others who've come and put things together that you could now use. So, but the one thing you didn't understand is the organization of things, and this is what he has brought in, but we only revealed that to him recently. Every message that we were giving him, that's why it was so potent, it was with the energetic changes that were happening in your world. Now, he didn't know that. He's never studied astrology or astronomy. He's never studied any of that. But then he saw that our messages, because now you have artificial intelligence, and then he could take it and he could look at it and go, oh, and he just did it the other day, because you have a full moon coming up. We told him to look at what's coming up in June, and you'll see that we've given you all that information. It's the energies that are important. And so when you understand how the energies affect each of you, you come to understand who you are, and you don't have to struggle as much. None of you should struggle, because you're supposed to have great lives, but you're resistant. And that resistance comes in your thinking, that's all. But then we said something else. When we began, we said your world's going to go through a big change, a restructuring as we've called it. And it was going to be focused in many different places, the United States in particular. And that's a reason for that, though. We want you to understand it's energy. You've never had a galactic change like this, and it was concentrated there. But it was for a great reason, because in the United States, you set up on certain times when Pluto had changed that you were going to have a world, a country that was free and equal for all. But you didn't do that. And so we thought, well, maybe you want to look at that, because there were so many people that were left behind, especially those of color and those of the feminine persuasion. But see, those are energies again. You're each meant to balance those energies within yourself and within your collective society or civilization. We've given you a new way. Now, we can't cause you to believe it, because that's challenging for all of you. You can sit and read certain things like your Bibles and all of that, and you think those things were made up. Well, we've given you someone who has lived it, so we know what it can do for you. But getting you to believe getting him to believe it was also shocking. So what we did, you've had several days where many of you were probably on your knees because the energies were so strong. And so was our messenger. He could hardly get through this Scorpio full moon because it was bringing up everything. Because when you go, double Scorpio that he is, he has to uncover all of it. And he's just on his knees. Oh no. But then we put him in places where he could prove it more. We had him go to an event where he's put in with all these people. And same thing, we started having him do birthdays. We just wanted to reinforce it, and we wanted him to get out of his way because he's been afraid like many of you. You become afraid to expose yourself. You become afraid to take the next step. And the next step is always to the highest place within you. It's each of you. This is what we wanted you to understand, and that's why we did the birthday thing, because we wanted each of you to understand that you have a genetic code at the time that you were born that is something that a path that you could follow that would lead you to your best life. That's all. And it's going to be different for each of you. You're not going to all do the same thing. And there'll be a vast many of people who would never believe anything that we're saying, even when we show you the proof of it. We just want you to understand. That's why we kept talking about cognitive dissonance, because you've developed sciences now where you can see the difficulties that each of you have in terms of understanding yourselves. But then we gave you cognitive behavior training, and we showed you how it worked, because we had you do something every day to change what was happening in your mind, where you couldn't believe how great you could become. That's all. And it's a progression. And we wanted you to see that. And so when he analyzed that message that we gave you, because we gave it to you on February 19th of 2024, we said, accepting this message could change your life and the world. And many of you said, that's not possible. But then he put it in your artificial intelligence. They said, oh, wow, yes, it is. And they explained why. Because if each of you were to let go of your grievances and your hatred and your judgments of yourselves and others, it would happen. But the most important thing is that you would live this wonderful life. And that's what we have given you. And so what we did next is that we showed him all those energetic connections. So now it started to make sense why he was healing, why he was moving through all of this and getting younger, which is what we wanted all of you to do, or to be able to accomplish. But he couldn't do this by himself. This is not for him. But what he has done is he's held himself back. See, last year on this date, we told you, you still have time. Today, we're not saying that because none of you have moved. Not enough of you have moved. Moving, we mean embracing more of who you are. We told you that you were going to see this control of money and power. That's the first message that we had him use. Power, money, love, and control. Those are the things that throughout civilization that you've used to control one another. And it was going to be concentrated this time. But the biggest thing would be the money. And it's about the energy. It's not about the thing. It's the energy. And that energy is in consciousness. And many of you have been taught to become insignificant and subservient. That's been going on. That's what's been in the collective consciousness of your world. And so we gave you something different. We said you all have infinite intelligence. That's the message we gave you on January 1st of 2012, you see, because that's what we want you to understand. And then on the 31st of that year, we said you're creating your future. That's each of you. But it depends on what you decide to do, because it's a collective, a synergy of energy that comes through each single person. But then we made it even better this week, because he never remembers what we're giving him, which is so challenging for him. So he had him do something he had filmed something for Cryon. And then he watched it on Wednesday and he was shocked, because he didn't remember. Because he heard all the information we had given him and how brilliant it was and how it was helping so many. And he didn't remember, and then he felt guilty. We're saying this because many of you might come up with that. And we don't want you to do that or have the regret, which is what he was feeling. But we're talking about it now because many of you will start to feel that as you uncover things about yourself that were previously hidden. We don't want you to do that. We just want you to take the next step. And that's what we're having him do today. He's done the same. We have to break generational patterns, by the way. It didn't make sense to him that he could be this person who looked like him, who could bring through a work like this. And so we had to break that generational pattern because he couldn't charge enough money for it. And that's exactly the thing that we wanted him to break through. And he lets himself go down to where he has nothing because he's trying to help everyone else. You cannot do that. You must help yourself first. But it was purposeful for him because now he's giving you all a roadmap. He's giving you all the answers because we've answered all of them. There's no question that could come up for any of you at this point that we haven't answered. And we've proven that by having him pull out from our works everything. And we told you before, you could even go to our site and put in a word that you want to find for your particular difficulty you might be experiencing, and you'll get some help there. That's what we've done, but you each come in to do something different. But why we're doing this today is because he has to move. And we told him before, he didn't even know this was happening. We told him last week to tell all of you he's got to stop what he's been doing and move on. But we want all of you to have the information that we've given so far. But guess what? We have tons more, and that's what he's been holding back, as all of you have. But that can be no longer, because this is the day that you're each supposed to take that next step into loving yourselves. That means embracing the next aspect of who you're meant to become in this world. And we don't care who you are. You have something brilliant that's within you. We know that you've been through many difficult things in your life. That was purposeful. You've learned something from that. And that's given you value. And it's giving you also more courage to take the next step. That's how it occurs. Now, you're not going to all do this because we said you have generations that change. And we took you back 100 years because you repeat cycles. And you're looking at your world now and thinking, well, what's happened? You're repeating a cycle. And those cycles are, again, about control. And this is why we took you back to your world war. Because you could do that again unless you start shifting your energies, because the conditions were ripe for that, which is why we wanted you to shift. But this is why we're doing this today. So now we're going to have him, we had him put together these little documents. We had his artificial intelligence was really surprised. They were just like, wow, this is too profound. How did that come together? Each of you has disbelief about what you might accomplish. And so whenever you're in human form, physical form, you have more abilities and you do things that have never been done before. And what he's done has never been done before. And we understand that, which is why it was so challenging for him and you to accept. But now is the time for all of you to accept, because you have magnificent gifts and we've given you a way to unearth them. We've given you a way to own them. And if you come together, which is what we wanted him to do, is to bring more of you together and have bigger groups so that you can have the synergy and the like-minded souls of camaraderie, bringing so much more to your world. But we had to do this today because we had to have him stop hiding, because that's what we want all of you to do, is to just embrace who you are. There's no one more important than you. This is your life. And it's within you, and it's with your consciousness. But you've all been programmed to not believe that in some way. But that's why you came, is to unearth that. That is evolution. That is your ascension path. And we've given you a way to understand it and to create the wonderful life that you want to have and the world. Now more of you will believe us, and that's all that we've ever wanted, because we wanted you to live a beautiful life, because we love you all so very much.